everybody, welcome back. I'm here with the wonderful Dilys Sillah. Hi Dilys, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. A
Oh,
bit hot, but I'm good.
Dilys is in Ghana at the moment and she's in 32 degrees heat, so I'm sure we can all sympathise with what's in England.
Not all that it's back
Really.
up. I promise you.
So Dilys is a transformational life and relationship coach. She is a TEDx speaker. She's founder of a fantastic charity called Who Will Hear My Cry, which raises awareness of rape, child abuse, and domestic violence in England and in Ghana. And she's also author of Predator or Prince: How to Find the Man of Your Dreams, Not Your Nightmares. And today she's going to be talking about emotional independence, which is such an important subject. So pleased to have you with us today. Thank you so much for this.
Very happy.
There's and she can relate to the heat, I think, in Namibia. Emotional independence, the full title is How Women Can Operate from a Place of Absolute Authority and Confidence in Love and Life. I mean, that's just such a powerful subject. But what is it? Because it's obviously a big part of what you do. What is it that made you so interested and so passionate about emotional independence?
I think it could probably be the reason for most of the problems in the world. I mean, I know it sounds very dramatic, but a lot of what we do that doesn't serve us is done from a place, normally from either a place of hurt or a place of bad experiences. And I think what got me to really focus on this area in particular was the amount it costs people in terms of time, in terms of mental health, even in terms of money, because we aren't in a place of owning exactly who we are in a way that serves us. So we're always, or very often, in a place where we're trying to please other people and we are doing things that we don't necessarily want to do, but sometimes we feel that it's just the easy way out or the easier option just to go along, as opposed to say, this is who I am. I don't apologize for who I am. I don't apologize for how I think, how I feel. And I'm happy if I'm not your cup of tea and you decide that you want to move on. It doesn't diminish me. It doesn't take anything from me. I am still me and I'm happy with the person that I see in the mirror. Very few of us can say that. And I want, my desire is that a lot more women can be in that place. It's safer for us. It's safer for our children. It's better for our careers.
It's a very brave attitude to have. I mean, I'd love to know a little bit more about your background that led you to be of that mindset and be so confident in that.
To be honest, I always describe myself as somebody that's a bit weird. And I say weird in as much that as a child, I was bullied. But I didn't have the normal reaction of a child that was bullied. So they would come for me in groups because I was pretty tough, but because I didn't look how they wanted me to look, or I didn't, present myself how they wanted me to present myself, I was bullied in primary school. But I didn't care to be a part of any form of acceptance. And I remember being, 5 or 6 and thinking, well, you're lucky to be my friend. I don't care if you don't want to be a friend of mine. So it's always been something that I've always owned who I was. I mean, I'm a Black woman. I'm a very dark-skinned Black woman. And, sometimes within our culture, within our race, the tone of Blackness defines who you are. I didn't care about that either. So I've always wanted other people, seeing how it has served me to be independent emotionally and mentally, how it can help other people be in that place. Not necessarily not caring in a way where you can be arrogant or conceited, but saying that those words will not and cannot define me. And I think, growing up with that kind of attitude and mindset has just served me very well. And I don't think that I am unique in as much that other women cannot experience that. But I think that it's something that we could have a little bit more of a dose of to help us to really make those decisions about every facet of our being that will serve us, for us to, be able to excel and be who we really do need to be.
That's incredible. I mean, to be so young and to have that self-assuredness. I mean, it's like a superpower, actually. It's what I would just really hope my children could have. I mean, just so incredible. So you've gone on and as a transformational life coach, you know, emotional independence is something that you teach people to have. So tell me, what is emotional independence?
Emotional independence to me, as I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, is being able to make decisions about your life, whether it be in regards to your family, whether it be in regards to your love life, family, whatever it may be, that you can make those decisions with a clear mind, with confidence, with authority, and you know, with from that place, and not from a place of past hurt or past trauma or past bad experience. Because many a time we make decisions based on what we have experienced before, emotionally. Now, emotion obviously has its place because we're not robots. But when it's coming from a place of whether it be extreme hurt or extreme anger, if you do make the right decision, 9 times out of 10, it's potluck. It's not because you've actually gone through a clear thought process to say, I have weighed up all the pros and cons. I am taking myself out of this situation emotionally, and I am thinking logically and strategically about this element of my life. That, you know, really for me is what emotional independence is.
And this is not something that we often associate with men having an issue with. I mean, why is it that we women seem to have this real struggle?
I think the way we are wired, we are allowed to be emotional. The issue that we have is that we do not often use that emotion positively. So if we are overly emotional, whatever that is, we are categorized and we are labeled. And we feel to be able to excel in, you know, in the corporate world or in business, we have to be hard nosed. And I'm sure you've heard the phrase, think like a man, as if men are the only ones that can think. We are quite capable of thinking, you know, very well and, you know, and very intelligently. So I think the emotional side is the type of emotion that we use and whether that emotion serves us.
It's so true. And ladies, please do comment in the chat box. Tell us what your thoughts are on emotional independence and any questions that you have for Dilys as we go along, because I will be keeping an eye on it and putting them into the chat. And anything that comes up, anything that she says that really strikes you, please do comment. We do want to hear from you and make this as interactive as possibly can, because it's such an important subject for us all. So you touched on the workplace and that kind of a whole idea of you know, this having to think like a man to be good at business, to succeed in the work. So how can emotional independence in business and in the workplace serve us as women? Why is it so important?
It's interesting because yesterday, when I was on my way to the airport coming to Ghana, I got a phone call that, look, this oil company in Ghana is looking for somebody to take part in a debate with their staff. And the topic is, does the glass ceiling no longer exist? And they wanted me to argue against the notion, which obviously was fine for me. And it was my team won the debate, by the way. I was very, very happy. I've got, you know, pictures on Facebook with the trophy to prove it. And, you know, we basically took it from different angles that, yes, women have made progress. We're not saying that women haven't done anything. What we're saying is a lot more can be done, and that it shouldn't ever be down to one woman's fight or to individual women. We need to have businesses, organizations, you know, corporations, what have you, set up that are in a way that is woman friendly, so that we shouldn't have to think about how we are showing up in the workplace. I shouldn't have to think what am I going to wear to the office? Does it make my figure stand out too much? Is it too sexy? Is it too revealing? You know, if I wear this color, will I be taken seriously enough? And they are all the things that we go through. They're the thought processes I know that I sometimes have to go through as emotionally independent as I am, to still consider, is my message going to be diluted because of how I show up even physically? So, you know, there's a lot that we have to consider as women. And I think that it does help us if we aren't emotional in a way that is negative. so that we can show up with our business mind. We can make a decision from a place that's not necessarily fueled by emotion, that we really do believe what we're saying for very legitimate reasons. Because I get this, when I'm in a discussion, I am never told that I am passionate or that I am knowledgeable. I'm told you're getting emotional. And I always pull people up on that. And it's only ever the men that say that. And I'm like, well, you've never not said, yeah, to the guy that I'm talking with, he doesn't get labeled as emotional, but we do. And I think that it's something that we have to be aware of so that we're able to show up how we want to show up.
Yeah. When you say about workplaces need to be more women friendly, I mean, that's more of a social problem. It's something that we can work towards changing people's attitudes, but it's, that's not something that you can control as a woman going into your workplace. You can't control what that, what the atmosphere, what their, how they treat women. How do you deal with it then in that kind of situation when you can't control that environment?
I mean, part of what I mentioned in the debate is that as a woman, you have to be smarter, you have to be quicker, you have to be more intelligent, you have to be more qualified. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. As to whether that will ever change, I don't know. Maybe not in our lifetime. I mean, I'm not being funny. We have come not very far if you think of how long women have been around. So how we change it is really the fact that we just have to be the best. We just have to be very good at what we do. And, in some ways we can't win, in as much as if you're a woman and you're not termed as attractive, then that's used against you even in the workplace, in how people speak about you and how people refer to you. God forbid you haven't got children. I mean, oh my God, that's just like the biggest sin. It's because you haven't got children. So therefore, you're unfeeling and you are not on that level. I mean, Theresa May made it to being the prime minister. However, the fact that she doesn't have children for whatever reason has to be a reference point. Again, God forbid if you're not married. These are all the labels that are put on us as women. But it's about having a strong sense of self, such that when people come for you, and they will come for you, that it has to be water off a duck's back. I mean, I work, as you mentioned, running the charity, and in Ghana, I'm classed as somebody that's quite strange because I don't really give a damn about what the men think. And if something needs to be something needs to be said, it will be said with respect. It will be said from a place of balance. But it will never stop me, the fact that I am a woman, or the fact that labels have been placed on me, that it will gag me or act to something that will restrict me in any way. But it is not something that is easy.
And how do you deal? How do you deal? I'd be very interested to know in that situation when you are talking about something and someone says to you, "Oh, you're being emotional." I mean, how do you deal with that? Because that is something that really scuppers me in my tracks, and it's seen as an insult actually, but it shouldn't be. How do you deal with that?
As in the insults from people in regards to what I do?
Well, no, I mean, if as a woman and you're kind of having a debate about something and you're accused of getting emotional about it, is there a way of kind of moving past that without it kind of,
looking emotional, right?
Without looking emotional.
I think it's fine to take a moment and go and scream and come back to the discussion. And I just pull people up on it. I'm like, you do realize that women can actually put across a perfectly plausible and legitimate argument without crying in their tissues. So I can be quite sarcastic when I'm ready. And I think that always, helps. And then I ask the question, how come this person is not emotional because they have a penis and I'm emotional because I have a vagina? Would you care to explain? And that normally does the trick. And then we can move on and, keep the argument or the discussion going.
So obviously the key is, as we've been saying, is finding your emotional independence and being able to own it, I suppose. How do you do it? It's easier said than done, perhaps. Or what do you do that?
I think we have to be honest about who we are. And that is the beginning of the challenge. It is not easy to look in the mirror and say, this is who I am, warts and all, and what has contributed to you being that person. And it is not an easy thing. And it's something that you have to confront when there is just you, your spirit and your soul, and just be in that place and be honest and say, look, maybe my childhood wasn't great. XYZ may have happened. Or growing up, I had whatever experience. Or in the workplace, this is what I have suffered. And own, and I know it's kind of like a weird thing to say, but own that trauma, own that pain, and try and do something about it. Because there is enough help out there, whether it is through counseling, through life coaches, whatever it is, there is somebody out there that can help walk you through that journey. Because the problem that we have is sometimes the pain is too deep and it is too painful to say, this is the experience that I've had and I am now ready to deal with it. I had a client that asked me a profound question. She said to me, I have got all this stuff, and if I unpack it, what are you going to do with it? And I paused and I said to her, you've probably asked me one of the most profound questions I've ever been asked as a coach. And I said to her, I'm going to take that box of stuff and I'm going to help you unfold those clothes. And I will help you look at each item of clothing and what it symbolizes, whether you've put on weight and can't fit into it, whether it's the fact that you know, it brings back great memories because you had that outfit in your youth, whatever those things may be, I will unpack them and place them back in that box, as opposed to you having all these clothes in this box, spilling over and you trying to press down the lid and it not working. Let's do this in a way that is systematic. And there may be times that you might need to go into that box to take out that skirt or those pair of trousers, but you can fold it and put it back neatly because we found a place for it. And that's the best analogy that I can give as to what we do with that stuff.
That's really, really powerful. So, I mean, so what you're basically saying is, if you want to gain emotional independence, if you want to have that power, you cannot ignore or push to the back of your mind what you've been through. You have to.
You absolutely.
It's funny, actually. There's such a theme running today, actually, and it is one of those things of looking at your past. I don't know whether you've seen or caught any of the other talks, but that there's a bit of a theme running today. So, so your advice to any ladies listening today, Lindsay says, "Oh wow, that's so true." Oh yes, and hello, Beta from Jakarta in Indonesia. Hello.
Yes, hello, ladies. My manners. So we've got somebody from all the way from Namibia and somebody from Indonesia.
Fantastic.
Which is pretty cool.
Ghana, it was incredible. So one of the things, so was it almost the first step to taking control of your emotional independence is going back into your past, and what is it, kind of looking at the pivotal moments, or looking for the things that cause you pain?
I think the way to kind of crack it is look at those things that keep showing up in your life that are negative. So whether it be relationships, because what I kind of do with people as well is I do like a process map. I call it like like a relationship or emotional process map. What are the things that keep showing up that you didn't realize keep showing up? And then from that point, look at the part that you played in it. And as I said, it has to be one of those things that's just raw. Even if it was a relationship that ended because of infidelity on your partner's side, what happened? What was the starting point? And that will enable you to see yourself outside of yourself. And that is a good place to start, to say, okay, well, let me see, how I look and how I come across and what's the reason behind it. And I'll give you an example. So my mum used to travel a lot when we were younger. Hence the reason why I didn't always look so trendy when I was in primary school. Now, because I didn't used to look, with my hair all in place and what have you, I am a real stickler when it comes to physical appearance, especially for my children. I hate them to look, unkempt in any way, shape or form. Your hair has always got to be neat. Your clothes have always got to look pristine. That in itself is not a bad thing. But where it's coming from, there is a history. So my response and my reaction to my daughter having her cardigan hanging off her shoulder may be very different from you, Kate. So it's those kind of little things that when you're able to look at it, and you know, it did take me time to actually look at when I decided that I wanted to get married, I decided that I wanted to be the best wife that I could be. And in order to do that, I needed to look at myself. And certain things just had to go. Like, for example, I would never discuss with a guy any problem. As far as I was concerned, you're not my husband. If it ain't working, I've told you a couple of times, things that I'm not happy with, and you don't do it, I'm gone. Yeah. And how you would know that I'm gone is that you would ring me a couple of times, or maybe more than a couple of times. And when I don't answer the phone, you know that she's jumped ship. I was pretty damn ruthless in that respect. Yes. And I knew where it came from eventually, because I realized that my maternal relationship at the time was not where it should be. And I thought, if I can walk away from that, any other relationship is a poor second. But I had to be in that space to really understand where I was coming from. Because in not knowing where I'm coming from, there's absolutely no way that I would be able to be that good wife that I wanted to be. That would be impossible. And I realized that you can't just pack and leave. You have to sit there and, to a degree, humble yourself and talk problems through. Something that was very, very alien to me. Why? Because Dilys didn't do vulnerable. Mm-hmm. That's where it came from. So, you know, you have to come to a place where you've got to just be honest. Lying to yourself will only get you that far. And I think the issue is not being aware that you're lying to yourself, or not being aware that there are what I like to call emotional potholes that you need to fill before you are able to show up in the fullness and the beauty of who you are. The beauty is not this. This is created by Mac. This is not the beauty. The beauty is knowing who you are, and nobody having the authority or the power to take away who you are by words or through an experience, whether it is, you know, the most horrendous thing that could happen to you, that you understand that, you know what, the fact that you have life and you are breathing, that value in itself, nobody can give that to you. And therefore nobody can really take it away unless you give it, no matter what that trauma or that experience may be.
So it was really interesting, is emotional independence isn't necessarily about not being vulnerable, but it's about choosing when to be vulnerable and who with as well.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely. Knowing your circle. You know, not everybody should be privy to your vulnerability. Not everybody should have the privilege of being privy to your vulnerability. But that again, you know, goes back to something that a chapter that I've written in my book called the Chameleon Syndrome, where I talk about how a chameleon, as we know, changes its color, but it changes its color for its own benefit. So if it's feeling cold or if it's on heat, it will adapt its color to serve itself. That's where the similarities end. Because what we tend to do as women is we present like a color chart. Like when you go to B&Q and they give you these little charts, you know, different shades. We kind of do that in relationships. We present and we say, right, what shade would you like me to be? Let me act that out so that I'm not rejected, so that I'm not left, so that I can keep you. That relationship ends. And then we move on to the next man. Pick a color. I'll be red for you. I hate to cook, but I'm going to cook for you because I know you like to eat in. And you know that you know, it becomes a chore for you. Or, you know, I'm going to lose weight because I want to catch this man. And you know that you're quite happy, and why shouldn't you be? Absolutely content being a size 16 or being whatever. But you change until actually there is no color. And that's when we initiate ourselves into these negative relationships that don't serve us and don't serve our children. And that's why, you know, it's so important to have that emotional independence to say, you know, you don't like me, it's not working, no problem, hasta la vista. And that's it.
Yeah, because I mean, everyone's loving this. The comments, everyone is absolutely loving this. And I'm just sitting here nodding my head like one of the dogs in the back of the car. But it's just,
because we're women and we're good.
It's so true. And
we all relate.
it's funny because the way you describe it, it's kind of, it's almost like you're saying something that I knew, but I didn't realize I knew. But it's how you lose yourself, isn't it? It's just how you lose the essence of you, and it's how you stop being you by this constant not being confident enough to displease people, not to be what they want you to be. And gosh, it's such powerful stuff. So I mean, I think we've kind of probably touched on this quite enough, but one of your things that you said you wanted to talk about is why you can't afford not to live without your emotional baggage, and that's something we've talked about, how important it is about unpacking that.
Yes.
So what is it that you can really learn from your past? I mean, why is it so important to learn from your past to be able to map your future for going forward?
I think it depends on how much you want to live. I mean, I run this workshop called Rewriting History. And normally when we talk about rewriting history, it's normally said with a negative connotation. Normally when somebody isn't speaking the truth, it's like, oh, you're just rewriting history. Mm-hmm. But I've used that phrase to say you can rewrite your history. You can go back and say, okay, this happened. Now I'm in this place. So moving forward, when those situations present themselves, this is how I'm going to respond. Because if you don't go back and unpack that baggage, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter how far you go in life, it will keep coming back. And it will keep coming back in a way that disempowers you every time. Why? Because it would have come back so often. And it will come back in a way where you will think, oh, I thought I got over this stuff. But you realize that you haven't. And sometimes when that stuff shows up, it's at a time where you can't afford for it to show up. Maybe you're in that relationship that you thought this is the one, or you've actually married this person and things have been fine. And, as married people, that things happen, there's peaks, there's troughs, things happen, life happens. But you find yourself responding in a way that you don't necessarily want to respond in that way to deal with that problem, but you don't know any other way. So you go into survival mode, but you realize that actually you can't survive. So you're in a catch-22 situation where you want to survive. You're using the tools that you thought are available, but they're the very things that are undoing the fabric of what you're trying to weave together. So having that emotional independence and unpacking that baggage mentally as well is crucial, because our mental health in all of this plays a huge part. We as women, we deal with stress, we deal with worry, we deal with anxiety in ways, again, that are very detrimental to our health. Normally as women, when we come to that place where we recognize or we realize that we're stressed, that's normally because our health has been adversely affected. And whether it's the fact that it manifests through our relationship with food, or like for me, I didn't actually know what stress was. And that sounds really silly, but I felt, because when we hear the word stress, at least for me, it was normally in the workplace by somebody overreacting or not dealing with pressure particularly well and snapping at everybody and making everybody's life hell. That's what I thought stress was. Now, my personality is such that I work quite well under pressure. I never snap at people when I'm upset. It's something that I really hate that people do, that, when they're angry and they just lash out at people. I can't stand that. So it's not something that I have ever done or ever do with staff. So I'm not recognizing that definition of stress. However, I'm not sleeping. I'm up all hours. I'm feeling lethargic. I'm waking up and my heart is pounding. I'm having trouble breathing. I'm not realizing this is stress for Dilys. What stress looks like for Kate may be something completely different. So I have a very good friend of mine that said, no matter what's happening in my life, I sleep like a baby. She lost her mum to cancer and her sister to cancer within 18 months. And she never lost a night's sleep. So if I tell her that this is a definition of stress, she is not going to pay attention to other things that are showing up and manifesting that are stress related, because Dilys has told her that stress manifests when you can't sleep. Mm-hmm. So it's something that we are, God in his infinite wisdom, even our DNA is so unique even with identical twins, that when we recognize, even to just pause for a moment and recognize that our individuality is such a powerful thing that it needs to serve us, the fact that there is no other person that is like us. And therefore, even in regards to our health, we have to own it as an individual person. What is it that makes Kate special? What makes Kate tick? What are the things that worry Kate? And how does Kate respond? Not, well, Dilys responds differently because she's been able to do da 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 da. Irrelevant to your life. It's about what makes you who you are and how are you able to live the best version of your life based on who you are. And that's really the crux of it.
Is it about kind of stepping back and using your intuition a bit more then? And, you know, because you can be running along and not realizing that actually you're not living the life you should be because, well, just because you're on a treadmill, really. So it's about making sure you have that mind space to think, ask yourself the question, is this right? Am I happy? Am I being myself?
Yes.
That's what it's about. Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry about that. Lovely way to interrupt us. So how do you decide then what's right for you? I mean, people who aren't as naturally confident as you are, how do you make those decisions? How do you start on that path to being a bit more assertive?
You hire a coach like me. I mean, to be honest, everything in life is a process. I'm 47 this year. I've had a long time to be confident. However, I am still on my journey. As confident as I am, I was on a contract, I think it was 3 years ago now. And I had to call the person that I was working with into an office to tell him that I would no longer allow him to disrespect me or to come into my space and take over work that I had done and for him to steal. For me, you may think that that's like a really, minor thing, but for me, it was one area of my life because in the workplace, it had really affected me emotionally, really badly. Some of it was to do with sexual harassment, which I am still dealing with, and it's something that I will be talking about at a later date. But it was really something that, it was a big win for me. So I think for any woman that is looking at the whole confidence thing, to say, look, it is a process, little steps, the power of saying no and not feeling guilty. It's a big deal, but it's not something that, again, it's about you as a person. It shouldn't be a comparative thing. You look at the areas where sometimes you're not able to say no, whether it's to family or you take on too much because you feel bad or you feel guilty. It's something that you may need to practice. Or maybe in one area, like, okay, for example, at work, I'm not going to stay on. I'm going to say, well, actually, I have something to do today, so I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm really sorry, I would if I could. And see how you feel and build yourself up slowly to be able to celebrate the fact that today I said no. And it is a big deal. I mean, again, I like to help people. And sometimes I find it difficult to say no because I'm like, well, if I don't help this person right now and they need me, what are they going to do? But I came to a place where I realized that they're not going to die. They're going to be okay. I am not God. I am not the Messiah. I am not going to kill them by the fact that I have said no. I will respectfully relay to them that I can't help you at this time. And if they have the respect that I have for them, that same respect for me, they will be okay with that. And no one has ever, hunted me down and wanted to kill me just because I said, I'm really sorry, I can't do this at this time. It is okay to say no.
Yeah, and I think all you have to do is do it once and you realize that actually
yes, it's very empowering.
It is, and you realize I don't know what repercussions you seem to think is going to happen by you saying no, and yet when you do it, people tend to respect that, don't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Incredible. So the other thing that you talk about is how to know when to walk away. I suppose it's that whole idea of as women, we don't want to displease people. We continue with these toxic relationships in our lives that are benefiting us in no way, but for some reason we feel obliged to stay. I mean, so how do you walk away? How do you know when to walk away, and how do you do it?
When you've had enough. It's really that simple. When you have had enough. There is no science to it. There's no magic moment. When you have had enough, when you realize that you are better than what you are allowing yourself to experience, you will walk away. I mean, as you mentioned, the charity that I run, we raise awareness on rape, child abuse, and domestic violence. Even for victims of domestic violence, I never tell them, pack your things and leave. When you've had enough. When you have been beaten once, one too many times. When you have been told that you're worthless one too many times. When you've looked at your children and you realize that their childhood is being taken away from them. When you have had enough, that is when you will walk away. I have no magic formula. I have no gimmicks to sell you. For me, I'm all about being very authentic and being very truthful. And you will know when you have had enough and say, I'm done with this. I'm better than this. I'm done.
Everyone has a tipping point, but there's not necessarily, some people it takes longer.
Yes. And the thing is, when you push somebody to make a decision that they are not ready to make, they will not own it. And that is the difference between a good coach and let's say a counselor who will give you some indication of what you should do. For me, I don't tell people what to do. What I do is I will help you to walk your path and point out to you the different options. As for the decisions, you will make it, because if you don't make the decision, you will not own it. I could tell my clients in a nutshell what I think they should do. Do da 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 da. And I can guarantee you they will sit there and nod their heads, but they won't own it. And they will go back to whatever it was that they were doing that brought them to me in the first place. So, it's very important.
What's the difference then between people who decide to take action and people who just carry on, even though the situation?
I think it's fear, and I think sometimes it's lack of support. So, and judgment. We're so quick at judgment. We're so quick. If you look on social media, you could watch the nicest video on Facebook, and there'll be some idiot that will jump on there and will tear it down. And sometimes people are afraid of the unknown. So they don't want to leave that relationship or leave that workplace or leave that friendship because they don't know what's there on the other side. Therefore, they're not prepared to put themselves out there and say, let me just take this chance. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not the end of the world. And I think that's the greatest thing that holds people back. It is fear.
And it's because you don't have enough confidence that you are enough.
And also sometimes the language that we have heard growing up or throughout our life, it really contributes to who we are. So, I have a client who, was told that she wasn't wanted, was told that she was worth nothing, and is still being told that there are things that she wants to do that she's not capable of doing. The words that we hear and the conversations that we have, they shape our world. Words are powerful. And one thing that people will always tell you about me, my friend, I am very encouraging. You will never come to me and say that, Dilys, I want to do this, and it will ever leave my lips that you will not be able to do it. Not going to happen. People need to know that they are valued. People need to know that they are worth something. People need to know that they can do anything that they want to do, whatever they put their mind to. So for me, no matter how broken somebody comes to me, I don't care. I'm saying, so long as there is a heartbeat, there is hope. Your today does not necessarily define your tomorrow. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, definitively until I started doing this. This is when I realized that this is my calling. But then I have other things that, may have been a passion of mine when I was growing up. I mean, everybody knows, or most people that know me knows that I wanted to do stand-up comedy. But yeah, I'm doing something that's so serious. But then I can bring that element into what I do to lift the mood, because it can get so heavy sometimes talking about this kind of stuff. People, the first rewriting history workshop that I ran, the tears and the space that was created was phenomenal. I had people sharing the fact that they had been raped and never told anyone before. It was phenomenal, because who would have thought? But when you create that space for people to just be who they want to be, and they know that it's safe, people will share. And when people share, it means people can take the masks off, so that you know what it is that you need to help them with, and you know what it is where you need to encourage them.
Lindsay's just commenting, agreeing that I think you have to know yourself and have enough confidence.
Absolutely, Lindsay.
So yes, that's right. The other thing, just going back to what you were saying about the words that we hear having such a powerful effect on us. So the words you hear growing up, or the words you're hearing from the people around you, and in that kind of situation where you can't exactly change the words you're hearing or the words you've heard, you can change the words that you're telling yourself. Is that one of your?
Yes, absolutely.
So how would you do that on a day-to-day, kind of change the messaging within you?
Yeah. Well, what I've done with some of my clients is, I did this particular exercise with this particular person because of the kind of background that they had and the kind of things that they had constantly been told. I just asked her a very simple question. I said, could you list 10 things that people say about you? And it was a very difficult, it sounds really simple, but it was a very difficult exercise for her to perform. Eventually she wrote that, people said that she was a great manager, people said she was a good friend, people said she was all these positive things. And then she said, I'm not used to people saying nice things about me. And I said, they're not nice things, they're truthful things. There's a difference. I said, I have no interest in being nice to you right now. I want to be truthful. And if the truth happens to be nice, then that's a byproduct. That is not our focus. And she was struggling. And I had to be quite tough. And I said, okay, now I want you to go away and tell me 10 things that you know about yourself. And it was a battle. It was a real struggle. And I personally felt it was a struggle because they had been in that place for so long. It becomes familiar and it becomes safe. So to come out and dare to think differently, to shift that paradigm, was frightening for her.
Yeah.
And I then went one step further and I said, I now want you to print out those things that people say about you and what you know about yourself. And I want you to paste them on your walls around your house. So that whether you feel it or not, you will see it. And we all know that if we see something often enough, we will begin to believe it. And that is how I attempted to infiltrate the negative, words and mindsets that had been placed on her because of what she heard.
That's brilliant. That's so powerful. We just have a couple more minutes before we're going to have to end the session. If anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask. It's just been such a fantastic session.
Thank you so much. I really hope that the ladies have found it helpful.
I'm sure they have. It's fantastic. Just before we go, if there were kind of like 2 top things that people should do to build their emotional confidence now, what would they be? Or the one thing that you need to do?
The one thing I think would probably help is describe to yourself what the best version of your life would look like in the area that you are facing the most struggle. So if it was emotional, or maybe let's say in relationships, but I want to be with a person who loves me, respects me, that does X, Y, Z with me, and look at where you are now and ask yourself why you think that may be the case. I don't know whether now would be a good time to mention that I offer free consultations, obviously when I'm back in London. And I do allow people that space to explore different areas that sometimes we may think that, a problem, it may be a problem with our, like for an example, I had a client who wanted to move forward with their career. Yet still, the first 3 sessions, all we did was speak about her relationship with her mother. So sometimes we may think that the issue is here, but it may be somewhere else. But as I said, as a good coach, I would not say, yeah, but you wanted to talk about your career, so let's leave that for now. Because you'll be able to look at things from a completely different dimension and realize that actually the problem is here. But it's not for me to say, that's your problem. It's for me to say, this keeps showing up. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there seems to be a correlation between? And then we work from there. So, you know, just being in that space, I think just do a bit of exploratory work yourself. And if you're not able to do that, I'm quite happy to do that. I have clients from all over, so we don't have to literally be in England. I mean, look at what we're doing now. I'm in Ghana and we're having a great conversation, you know, so distance is no barrier.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And thank you so much. Do you have a website that I can pop into the chat box so people can find and find you and reach out to you?
Absolutely. So my website is my name. So it's DilysSillah.com. And that is spelled DILYSSILLAH.com. All my details are there. I'm also, the next thing that I have is a weekend, a rewriting history weekend, a spa weekend break. The details are on my website, so you can look at that as well. I do have a copy of, I don't know if I'm supposed to hold it upside down. How do you do this thing so that it doesn't...
Oh, I can read it perfectly.
Okay, so for me, it looks back to front. So this is the book that I've written, Predator Prince, How to Find the Man of Your Dreams and Not Your Nightmares. Now, as much as this book may seem to be just about relationships, I will warn you now that it's not. And it is very unapologetic in stripping away any layers that you may have. And a lot of feedback that I've had is that people have had to put the book down and go back to it. But it will really help you to move on emotionally in any area that you have had any kind of setback. And there are, you know, I talk about a lot of healing and forgiveness, which is crucial. I know we didn't get a lot of time to touch upon that. And I think that, you know, I think it would really help. So my name, DilysSillah.com. Go on there. You can book some time out with me. I'm actually in Ghana at the moment. I had a car accident just before I came. Someone smashed into me. So you'll see me moving about a lot because I still have quite a bit of pain. But I'm surviving. So yeah, I'm just getting the go ahead whether I can fly back. But if not, do email me. So it's Dilys@DilysSillah.com. which is really simple, and let's have a conversation. I am at your disposal.
That's brilliant. I'm just going to type your Dilys@DilysSillah.com. I'm going to type that in for everybody. Thank you so much, Dilys. It's just been wonderful talking to you. Just an incredible lady, so inspiring, and such a very powerful message. Yeah, it's just brilliant. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I'm sure they did. Lindsay's just saying you're an amazing woman, a real role model, and an amazing message. And I think we all feel like that. It's just really fantastic. Thank you so much, Dilys. It's lovely talking to you. I hope you feel better.
And you too, Kate.
And cool down. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, ladies. Bye-bye.